welcome to Dear Katie, the podcast that amplifies courageous voices and real stories of resilience, healing, and hope after trauma. Inspired by the many letters Katie has received over the last 20 years, each week she interviews survivors, healers, and experts to honor their stories and explore the many paths to healing and hope. Before we begin, please know, many episodes of Dear Katie cover sensitive topics related to sexual violence, trauma, and recovery. Listen with care and take the space you need to take care of yourself. Your well-being is what matters most. Now, let's join Katie and today's guest for a conversation that matters.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Dear Katie podcast. As you all know, I am Katie Koestner, your host for the show, and it is my pleasure to continue on this journey with each and every one of you. I always keep reminding everyone, get out that journal, take notes. I feel like if you're in the car, take notes later, wherever you are, because I think every one of our guests is just so beautiful and has so much to offer for each of us, like different pieces to help us think through either our own healing journeys or if we're helping support someone else, like what we can garner from that. So just push pause if you ever need to take a break. Self-care is everything. And whatever you need to do, I was like, today happens to be a good weather day, which is not a common thing around where I am. But I say fresh air is always great. Flowers, smelling good things, walks, chocolate, anything that works for you. I'm going to introduce Stephanie and then let her share more of her life story with you. So Stephanie, I think it's Gattas. Is it Gattas or Goddess?
It's Gattas, but either way, I'm used to various
that sounds like goddess too.
Pronunciations. Yes.
Goddess. And it's like Stephanie the Goddess is a U.S. Navy veteran and mission-driven marketing and communications leader. She's based in San Antonio, Texas. She is the founder and executive director of the Pink Berets, a nonprofit supporting women, veterans, and first responders through trauma-informed holistic wellness programs. She's also the CEO of Tactical One, a newly formed women's safety technology company focusing on building tools that help women feel safer in everyday life. Stephanie brings a blend of real-world leadership, advocacy, and practical strategy to every conversation. When she is not doing all these amazing things without work. She loves cooking, especially when it's an excuse to gather people and take care of her community. So welcome to the show, Stephanie. It's so nice to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's an honor, Katie. Thank you for having me.
So good. Okay, so Texas is where you are now. Were you born in Texas as well or somewhere else?
I was born in San Antonio, Texas, born and raised.
Oh, wow. And San Antonio is such a great city. So I've only been there a couple times maybe, but it's the one that has kind of the moat around the water around the city.
Yes.
Is that kind of right? With all those,
the Riverwalk.
The Riverwalk, yes.
Yes. The famed Riverwalk. Everybody likes to visit when they come to San Antonio.
For sure. So when you were growing up there, did you go to public high school, family? Like, tell us a little bit about all that early life stage.
Oh, certainly. So born and raised in San Antonio, I was what was considered now the more northwest side of San Antonio. I went to public schools. So I went to Linton for an elementary school. Then I went to Saul Ross. And then I went on to Holmes High School. And then moved on to Marshall High School when in the latter part of my school years, I moved to Helotes, Texas, which is just outside of San Antonio, but more at that time, it was more country. There wasn't really anything out there. Now it's grown immensely.
Okay. So is that like a big, would you say you went to a big high school or small? You said it was small town. Was the high school itself kind of small?
Oh, gosh. So when I moved out to Helotes, there wasn't really anything out there. So I had to go to high school in San Antonio. And it was a relatively big high school. I mean, we had a number of graduates the year that I graduated.
Okay. And were you into sports, music? Like, what were you like as a kid, as a teenager?
I was your consummate creative. So I was involved in theater. I was involved in, at the high school that I attended, John Marshall, I was in a fashion design class.
Oh, fun.
And Yes, and at that time, I just really gained an understanding of what it was that I loved to do. I loved to sketch. I loved theater. I loved production, producing. We had the opportunity to produce a fashion show. And for me, it was like, wow, this is really interesting. I love what it brought to us in terms of exercising our creativity, especially when you're in high school. And it just brought a number of people from all walks of life. I distinctly remember this person that was in my class. She was from Puerto Rico. Again, just very creative individuals, and to bring us all together and really, really showcase what that creativity looked like from our perspective was something that I took away from me when I was in high school. So excuse me. So when I think about high school, I think about the creative energy that I was able to bring, but also as an athlete, because I was in track, and that was something for me that really helped motivate me in terms of staying focused. Track isn't just running, right? So for me, it was being able to be involved, and this is also something that brings around unity, the camaraderie in athletics, right? So I would say in high school, I recognized that I had a creative side.
For sure. So the track part, Stephanie, I know track was like there was a girl in my high school who was so good, and she would, like, starting in middle school, I would see her outside. Like, she stayed after school every day and like would run, and I was like, Lana, how far are you going? It was baffling to me. I was like, she's like, oh, I usually do 10 to 20 laps. I'm like, whoa. And she's such a good athlete. She always was. And went on to do lots with field hockey. So you said it's not just running. Were you one of those ones who were doing like jumping over things? Like which one were you, or more than
So
that?
I started off as a sprinter, and then I moved into cross country. And cross country, I mean, you're looking at an extensive time running. I distinctly remember them telling us, you start here, you go around, and you finish here. And I was thinking, wow, that is miles away. Will we ever get back? But we did it. And
you ran as a pack, right? Like, did everyone kind of?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
We
so
all ran
cool.
together.
I think that's.
I'm Gen Z, so.
Yeah, that's so fun. So you did track, and then when you graduated from high school, what was next?
I immediately went into the United States Navy.
Okay, what possessed you for that idea?
You know what? That is something that I really had to sit in my thoughts and think, wow, what a big leap from where I was in high school creatively. I distinctly remember speaking to my mom about wanting to enter the fashion design arena. And at the time, my mother wanted me to reconsider. She wanted me to kind of think beyond fashion design, because in her mind, it was, where will you go from here?
Yeah.
And in my young mind, I just kept thinking the big picture, like, oh, I'm going to continue sketching, and I'm going to build outfits, and I'm going to work for X company, and I'm going to go to New York. Like, those were the thought processes for me. But, and the moment that she disclosed that it would be a challenging journey, I remember at the time thinking, she's right. And I wanted to see what limits I could push beyond the creative limits. And I thought to myself, was the military an option for me, considering I would have an opportunity to be educated? I would have an opportunity to get outside of my comfort zone. And then I love the idea of traveling. I would say that I wasn't necessarily set on the United States Navy at the time, but I do remember receiving a postcard in the mail. When you're in high school, you have recruiters everywhere trying to recruit you.
Every day.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I remember testing for the Marine Corps. And when you're testing with the ASVAB at the time, they had disclosed to me, the Marine Corps, that I tested in the legal areas of your MOS. And I remember thinking, I don't want to go into legal. Like, I have no interest in that. Now, where I am in life now would say differently, right? But according to the scores, that was something that I would do well in. So I opted to take the ASVAB with the United States Navy. And at that time, they had disclosed, oh, well, you could do anything that you want in the Navy. And at the time, being in high school, I was like, okay, well, yeah, let's do that. Let's kind of leave it broad. Let's see what it is that I can do. And I remember signing up with the United States Navy thinking I was more intrigued. I felt like I was connected to the idea of traveling on a ship. I don't even know what I was thinking at the time when I thought about that. But I distinctly remember one of the trips that the recruiter took myself and a few other individuals on was to the USS Lexington. And the USS Lexington gave us an idea of what it could be like to serve in the United States Navy. And I remember being inspired and thinking, this is what I want to do. This is the branch that I want to go into. And so I put in the work, and I remember doing what I had to do to sign up, but not alerting my parents until I know it was a week before I was due to leave. And I remember doing it because I didn't want anybody to stop me. I didn't want anybody to change my mind or to tell me that's not the direction you should go in. Here's some other ideas. I was really set on leaving to the military. I was inspired. I wanted to do this more than anything outside of what I originally believed I wanted to do, which was to be into the fashion design world. But I would tell you today, if I had to change course, I would still choose the Navy.
Oh, wow. Stephanie, that's interesting. So what was it like to start out as a woman in the Navy? There was a lot of women with you, or like, do you go to basic training? Like, what did that start look like?
Great question. I would say, so there's going to be two parts to this. In boot camp, they would separate us. So it was very gender specific. So in one building, you had the men, and in the other building, you had the women. And I remember coming into this environment, not really knowing what I was preparing myself for, because the version that I was given prior to going into the military was very different from the version in real time. So I served out of Orlando, Florida. And I remember that we were told we were the last unit to go through Orlando, Florida's base. And I thought at the time, wow, what does this mean for us? And it meant that we were essentially the last class going through that base, and then it would be closed down and there would not be any more boot camp going through that specific base. So we served there. I went to what was called AT school soon after. Once I was in AT school, we went for about 8 weeks. We were trained in specific areas, and I remember everybody getting their orders, and they were getting them to Alameda, California, San Diego, California. And at this point, you've developed some really strong friendships, and you're spending months with these individuals, right? So you really get to know yourself on a completely different level, because you're seeing them in the morning all the way through the evening. You're up at the crack of dawn doing physical training. You're going through really a lot of the training that the military prepares you for with all these individuals. So they become, a big part of that development process for you. Everybody but myself and one other individual were told in this class that we were going somewhere else. And at the time, I thought, I do really well in my coursework. I excelled in boot camp. where could they possibly be sending me and why? Like, all my friends are going to Alameda, California, and San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I should go too. But the military had alternate plans for me and this other young lady at the time. So they escorted us to a building, and at this building, they said that we had to go through this additional set of testing. So we had to get a completely different physical because we were getting sent overseas. And I remember at the time thinking, what does this mean? I'm going overseas. Everybody else is going to the fun bases and all together, like all our friends are going to be together, but I'm singled out and going to this one place. The other young lady that they chose was going to a completely other place. So I never really understood why out of such a large class, 2 people were chosen and sent to different places overseas. So fast forward, and I get to go home and spend time with the family before I'm due to go overseas. And then they give me my orders and say that I'm going to the USS Simon Lake. And the USS Simon Lake is stationed in La Maddalena, Sardinia. And at the time, I didn't know what that was. I just thought, okay, this is my duty station. I'm going overseas. I have no idea what I'm doing. I was really nervous to a certain degree because I was pretty much on my own.
Yeah.
Right? To travel.
And were you 18? 19?
It's 18.
18?
18.
Oh, gosh.
18.
Yeah.
And I'm put on this flight for 12 hours. And I'm a nervous wreck, but I meet other women on this flight, and you can pick each other out because you have the sea bag, you have, the things that we're notoriously known for when we're traveling. And these women, we just immediately connected. Like, are you going here? Yes. You got orders here? Yes. Okay. Wow. Okay. I'm going there too. So all of a sudden, and I remember this like it was yesterday, Katie, we're on this flight and we're all sitting around each other at the time, and we're talking, getting to know one another. Where are we coming from? These women were coming from all over the U.S. And we get to our duty station. Granted, it was an adventure because we got to one airport, fell asleep because it was such a long haul, then missed that flight.
Oh, no.
Then they had to organize another flight. And I'm like, clearly, we don't know what we're doing on our own. And so they finally get us to our port, and they say, well, the ship was supposed to be here already, but it is not here. So you young ladies just have to stay back. We'll get you situated. And for us, it was like, well, again, we're in foreign land. What are we doing here? So quite the experience, but I do remember, this is the second part, we were told that we were part of the first integration group on this ship, meaning that they didn't have women on this ship prior. It was all men. So we were now this group of women that were going to be integrated into this working ship, as they called it, once it arrived. So it was an AS-33, which is a subtender. So you had over 1,000 people on this ship. And I didn't really think anything about it at the time. Again, I'm 18 years old. I don't know what I'm getting ready to be subjected to.
Stephanie, just a quick note, what year was this?
This was in 1994.
Okay, 94. I was curious, because integration, wow. Okay, gotcha. Now I've got a timestamp.
Yes, no, of course.
Okay, so 94, so how many women were you in this group about, would you say?
It was about 6 of us.
6?
It was 6.
And you're on a ship with 1,000 men?
Well, I don't know how many had traveled from other areas or in what time period. I just know we were part of the integration. Now, suffice to say, we weren't the only 6 on the ship.
Okay, I was going to be like, oh no.
But it would have been terrible. But we were part of the first influx of women that they were bringing onto this ship. And keep in mind, an AS-33, for those who aren't familiar, we carry torpedoes, and then we offload those torpedoes onto the submarines, the fast frigates, the destroyers. So when we say working ship, we're deployed to certain areas to ensure that we're providing the necessary resources, if you will, to the submarines, the fast frigates, and the destroyers. And so at the time, you're thinking, okay, so it's working ship, there's certain things that need to be done. But the unfortunate aspect of integrating us was we're now being subjected to learning how to work in an environment that wasn't accustomed to women.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're really trying to acclimate with an environment that's predominantly men, and they're accustomed to the way that they want things done and the way that they speak to one another and the way that they move in their workspace. And so now you're acclimating to this environment, and you're not certain what's suitable, what's not suitable in terms of communication and the work that's being provided. But I do remember that after a while, the behaviors were vile, but you had to, like anything else, become accustomed to that level of behavior. There was no one to say, that's inappropriate, that's sexual harassment, that's sexual assault, that's stalking. The nuances of integrating women with men in that environment, I believe, were still very new to the military at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about also an environment where if you're hanging around women too much, are you part of the LGBTQ community? If so, we're sending you to legal. What? I mean, it was that level of missed opportunities to really learn or educate ourselves and what it meant to be in that environment. Granted, things are slightly different today, but it was still very eye-opening that you had to be very protective of yourself and your surroundings. It wasn't the type of environment that said, okay, we're here, we've got your six, we're going to make sure that we're taking care of one another. You really had to fend for yourself in some instances. So that's
a lot.
It is a lot to unpack, I'm sure, but I wanted to make sure
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that, Stephanie. It paints a really clear picture of what you were going through. And then just my questions were, so there was the group of 6 of you, and then when you're on the ship, would you say there were 30 women in total? Like, do you have a guess?
I think the idea that they had at the time was to make it 50-50, where, there'd be 50% men, 50% women, but it was not always the case. I felt like still at the time they were working through the integration process, and it was more men to women ratio.
Do you think it was 10-1? Do you think?
I would think that would sound
right.
More.
And did you have any
legitimate,
women
realistic
officers on the ship? Were there any women leaders?
That is such a great question. When I think about it, a majority of the leaders were men. I've never been asked that question. That's a great question because it really allows me to sit and reflect on that moment in time. I cannot remember there being any women officers in our orbit, but I would say there were women officers, but not many, definitely not many.
So now you're navigating this terrible situation. It sounds like it's just a day by day fight to stay, intact, mentally and physically, probably.
Oh yes, absolutely. I can share a number of different instances where, when I say acclimate to an environment, I mean it took a toll on you, definitely, from a mental health aspect. Physically, the military expects you to stay fit, especially if you're serving overseas and in the capacity that we were serving.
And can you share an example or two of some of the, we call it virile, terrible, situations where you ever, did you ever feel completely threatened, or was it, can you describe a little bit of what it was like when you were starting out?
What I can tell you, as I think back to my time, I look at it from two different perspectives. One perspective is the military definitely forged me into the individual I am today, but it took a lot of overcoming some very difficult situations in the military to make me who I am today. So, for example, sexual harassment ran rampant, and so did sexual assault. And I remember thinking to myself, why isn't there anything that's being done about this? And I went into more of a protective mode, so very hypervigilant, always feeling like no matter where I went, I needed to look over my shoulder. I needed to make sure I was okay. I needed to feel safe to some degree. And the stories that I can share were women like myself who were serving. You get off the ship, you go into town at your port, and you go out and hang out with friends. You're drinking. We're young. We just want to have fun. We want to go to the bars. We're seeing familiar faces. Everybody's hanging out. But the unfortunate part of being in a foreign country is their rule of law is different from our rule of law. And so you found that people were taking advantage of those situations where a crime was committed, but justice wasn't provided to fit the crime, if that makes sense. So you would find women reluctant to share what had happened to them. And then you had other women that would talk about what had happened to them. But it was not taken as seriously as it is today, to some degree. I say this to say, if you reported an assault, you reported harassment, we'll talk to the individual and straighten them out. Well, no, there needs to be more than just talking to this individual and straightening them out. There needs to be consequences to their actions. If not, this is going to be cyclical. It's going to be a vicious cycle of this individual, this perpetrator, committing this crime over and over and over and over again. And that's what we found. And I think that what's interesting about what was happening then is not too far removed from what we're still learning about today.
And Stephanie, when you mentioned like it was just rampant, the harassment and sexual assault, was it like only in the ports? Was it also on the ship? Like, were there sexual assaults on the ship too, or mostly in the ports?
Both.
And
they were taking place in both areas, on the ship and at the port. So keep in mind, our ship deployed, so we were out to sea for about 6 months.
Okay. And you didn't dock at all for 6 months?
No.
And so there were sexual. So were they such that there was always drinking involved, or was it sometimes like, were drugs ever used to drug facilitate assault, or would people just, grab you out somewhere where they thought they could get away with it? I mean, do you think were there times when people actually saw what was going on with the women and didn't do anything about it, who weren't perpetrators but were watching?
That's another great question. I think we will never know who may have bared witness and did not come forward to protect these individuals. But what I can tell you is that a number of women would come forward, at least my friends that I served with, that would say, I don't remember what happened. I just woke up with my clothes off.
And were they telling each other? Like, were they sharing? Were you all, like, were other women confiding in you?
We confided in each other. We confided in each other as friends because we would be concerned, like, hey, you're late. What's going on? Like, if you're late, like, it's not like a normal corporate job, right? Like, you have to be there. There will be repercussions. And so if somebody was in our immediate friend group was late, well, what's going on? What happened? And I distinctly remember one of my friends at the time saying that, and I mean, she looked distraught. There was no question something had happened. And I immediately told her, you need to go to medical. You need to come to medical. Let's get you checked out. Let's make sure you're okay, because she woke up without her clothes and she was hurting. She was hurting.
Yeah.
Now, as terrible as this is about to sound, this is the reality of these catastrophic situations.
Right.
She was never capable of conceiving after that.
Oh, no.
So when we look at the outliers of what happens when somebody is assaulted, it can sometimes be looked at as, well, this individual was assaulted, but let's look at the aftermath of the assault and what that means. The individual will never be the same mentally. You have somebody who's been through a traumatic experience that will likely stay with them for the rest of their life. But when you think about removing the ability for a woman to conceive, for her ability to become a mother, you've taken more than that individual's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It just sounds horrific. Stephanie, all of this, like, I feel like we should all know this. And no one prepared the Navy or any part of our military for this integration. And as you said, it's still going on, so we're still not doing it well. Do you want to talk at all about your own personal experiences?
I will tell you that I think it's very important for us to share our stories, because the storytelling protects people. And if we're not telling our stories, then we're protecting the system, which we know to be fractured, right? So I was sexually assaulted. I did report. I do distinctly remember, and I say distinctly often because, again, I can look back at these things as if it was yesterday. There are things you will never forget.
Of course.
Especially when it comes to fighting for your life. And there was warning signs. I would go to the MP, which on the ship was the master at arms, and I would tell them, this individual stalking me, and I'm not feeling comfortable with this. Like, I've asked this person, I have asked this individual to stop following me. I have asked this individual to stay away from me. I, at one point, challenged the individual with very derogatory words. It was one of those instances where, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, you either go into freeze, fight or flight, or flight or fight.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned about myself very early on in the military was that I would choose to fight. So I didn't freeze. I didn't go the other direction. I stood and protected myself at all costs. And at what cost that would be, I would learn later. But I did everything that I could to lay the groundwork for stating, I'm not safe, and I need your help, and I need you to do something about this. And I remember them saying, military police, we'll talk to him. And then what will happen then? How can I be sure that proper measures will be taken, or that you're even taking this seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not one to complain, but if I feel threatened or I feel that my safety is going to be compromised, then I'm coming to you. Otherwise, I can take care of myself. But I'm feeling very anxious about this. We're going to take care of it. We're going to talk to this individual.
Did they
Keep in mind.
Did they write any of it down when you went in, Stephanie? Did they write down what you were saying? Like, did they take an official report?
They did.
Mm-hmm.
They did.
Was this the first year you were on the ship, or was this longer in?
This was the first year.
Oh my gosh. Like that.
This was the first year.
Months.
I would say probably around that time, 6 to 8 months time frame,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely early on.
Mm-hmm. And was he, was it just one person then? Not just one. I'm thinking it could have been
Sure.
multiple assaults, but there was one attacker for you?
One attacker for me, but multiple in terms of harassment.
Of course.
Multiple, like an alarming
Number.
amount.
Oh. And
But
was he able to get you alone somewhere, or were there parts of the ship that you wouldn't even go to, or you had to because it was your job? Like, how did that work?
that is probably one of the biggest complaints that women have to date,
Mm-hmm.
is you've reported the perpetrator.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, the perpetrator works in the same unit as you,
Right. That's what I'm
Right.
thinking.
and you're still forced
To work
to
there.
be in the midst of this individual
Mhm.
on a day-to-day basis, and be reminded on a day-to-day basis what has happened, but also what is not being done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what separates the military from the civilians is we are supposed to be an elite fighting force.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we not protecting one another
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to something like this? And I've said it before, as kids, we learn the basics of not touching one another, staying in your space. At least that's the thought process, is that we're taught at a very young age, even in school. Don't touch that person's things, keep your hands to yourself. So to me, at least the basic understanding, you keep your hands to yourself. So in the military, you would think that that would be the case. And unfortunately, it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in an even more closed off area when you're on a ship.
Right. That's what I was thinking. There's
It's
no
inevitable.
escape.
It's inevitable. You're going to see this individual, and you're not on the base where I'll just go over here, or
Mm-mm.
I'll find a way to avoid this individual.
Do you think he was targeting other women at the same time, or moved on after you? Like, do you think he had done this multiple times to other people?
I do think that He had done it multiple times to other people. And your question is very interesting, because today's statistics don't take that into account. They'll count that as a 1. Well, we got that one perpetrator, but they're not counting
the number of victims.
The number of victims that one perpetrator has victimized,
right,
or has assaulted.
Right.
So if we look at current statistics that come from the VA data, you're looking at 41.5% of women reporting MST. So what I like to remind people is that MST, military sexual trauma, is essentially an umbrella. And under this umbrella falls, your sexual harassment, sexual assault, and gender bias. So under this umbrella for MST, you have a huge percentage reporting. Now, that's just women. You also have a percentage of men.
Yeah.
And that's really the thing that we're really trying to highlight now more than ever. It's not a gender-specific issue. It is an epidemic in the military. And you're seeing a high prevalence in the LGBTQ community. Your percentage of men reporting is inaccurate, because they're not always going to come forward and report. But the same applies to women. So the prevalence of reporting doesn't match the actuality of the issue. We're talking about this challenging stigma that we're gaining ground on addressing the issue. Now, I will tell you, since starting the Pink Berets, advocacy has become, in my mind, the most powerful tool that we have.
Absolutely, Stephanie. Yeah. Yep. And uniting people, which is what you're doing. Before we talk about the Pink Berets, though, I guess since this is the very start of your, naval career, and this has already happened, we still don't know if you stayed in, or did you leave? Like, how long did you tough it out?
I stayed in the entirety of what I committed to serve.
And
so I committed to serving 8 years.
8 years.
8 years. What I will tell you is that it does change the trajectory of your initial goal. I say this to say that once the assault happened, I wasn't really dealing with my emotions very well. There's a lot of mental gymnastics in terms of shame. What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? Did I protect myself enough? Was I protected enough? I mean, you're just really dealing with the challenge of how you could have avoided this. And so you tend to draw those things inward. But the way that I was dealing with it was through aggression. So now this assault has happened. Now somebody looks at me the wrong way. Somebody approaches me. I would go into an altercation with individuals. And so I found myself, who initially started as somebody who was excelling, declining, because I no longer felt that I had what it took, and I wasn't focused on the job at hand. I was more focused at overcoming what I had been through, but not really understanding how to overcome it. And keep in mind, there wasn't this connection where if this happens, these are the proper steps. These are the measures you should take. If this happens, this is who can help. You're really left flailing on your own. What can I do? This person's still here. This person's not getting into any trouble, where they essentially got a slap on their hand. And I think, too, the way that it was looked at, especially at that time, was, well, you were out drinking. So, yeah. Or, were you in uniform? Were you not in uniform? What were you doing? Who was there? Were there witnesses? And what I can tell you is, when I was assaulted, there were people in the other room. And nobody thought to stop this person. It feels like a level of defeat that you'll never have an understanding for. Now, I don't say this to say that there has to be this victim mentality that's adopted. I say this because it really pushes you in the direction of redefining what that means now, because there's a different version of you now. That version is gone prior to being assaulted. Mm-hmm. And now you have this new version of yourself that you're trying to redeem, and you're not certain how, and you're still feeling like you have to fight to gain back the respect that was taken from you. The unfortunate thing is that once that happens, then the men get together and talk, and then the men think, oh, that's an easy target.
Oh, no.
Or that's a whore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the level of mudslinging was profound. And my goodness, if you didn't have thick skin to be able to take the level of insults that were hurled at you.
Stephanie, I'm listening to all this, and now I'm like wondering, would you say it was at least half of the men who behaved like this? Would you say it's 75% of the men? I'm not.
No.
Okay.
No.
How bad?
No.
What percentage of the men were just?
I would say there was a core group. Because it was always the same ones. Mm-hmm. But no, I met and worked with people that were amazing individuals.
Okay. So it's like
really stand-up individuals.
Like 10%.
I would say so.
Okay.
I would say so. Definitely.
Yeah.
Don't want it to seem like, the entire
no,
trip.
No, I had no
definitely
idea. I wasn't there, and I just didn't want to presume in my head like how bad it was, or if it was rampant I feel like the 10%, but you all are such a minority as the females, so it was pretty easy for that group to find you all and target you, it seems.
Certainly. Mm-hmm. I think that would be a valid assessment, because you do have those individuals that I still think about to this day who made an impact mm-hmm. on me as a young sailor. And I remember them because they were the ones who saw something in me before I saw it in myself. And there's something to be said about that. But we're talking about the older generation. Mm-hmm. I would say the older generation of those men in the military at the time were the ones that I saw as mentors. And the younger ones that were close in age to myself, the junior enlisted, were more of the perpetrators and the ones who really wanted to test your capability, your strength.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for all of that explanation. So you stayed in for the 8 years, and then do you feel like you kind of were in a stuck mode for the healing, or do you think there was some little bit of healing that could happen in that environment, or did you find once you were gone and out of it, you could focus on you more?
once I left, I could focus on me and gain an understanding. Because once you transition out, it's a very, very different level of understanding when it comes to what you're going to pursue after you separate from the military. So you're trying to understand and identify yourself once again. Who am I now? I was serving. This is what I did day to day. This is who I am, and I am no longer this individual. And transitioning out, you really didn't have a way to really become trauma informed. You really couldn't even identify that you had trauma. I think it was until years later that I was identifying something's terribly wrong here. I need to get help.
Right.
I would say because they're classified as invisible injuries, as invisible wounds, that no one can see what's transpiring on the inside. It's almost like you have to peel back the layers to really identify, okay, you are somebody who needs help. And I distinctly remember when I had the opportunity to sit down with a psychologist, the look on her face was very telling. And it wasn't one of sympathy. It was one of trying to identify how I made it this long and this far. But also, how many of you are out there, kind of thing, that are just trying to figure it out on their own and not trusting the system because of what the system allowed to happen to you. So that's why I turned my pain into purpose.
Of course.
I couldn't allow it to define me or succumb to it, because I was very near to succumbing to it. I at times didn't think I could continue, because it was one of those things where you recognized that it was a human dignity issue, but you also recognize that it was a leadership issue, because the leaders at the time didn't protect you the way that they should have. Right. So when you disconnect, there's just so much that you carry with you long after you've separated. And if you're not educated on how to receive that level of help, or if you're not educated on what it means to separate and still have these things lingering, then you're pretty much left on your own to dissolve these issues. And I can tell you, at the time, there wasn't a name to it. We weren't calling this military sexual trauma. There wasn't a name to it.
Right. And so when you're done, that you're like 26 or 7, and then what's your next step when you're out of the military?
So I pursued utilizing my GI Bill to go to school.
Okay.
I told myself I'm going to take advantage of the GI Bill given to me to pursue my education. And I remember still feeling a level of disconnect in general with the civilian population, just not feeling connected. And still internalizing a lot of what it was I was being subjected to. I distinctly recall, and I've said this in a number of different interviews, because it's just ingrained in my head, that my mom said the military sent back somebody different. She said, you're not the same person that left. Suffice to say, yes, you leave to the military and you're 18, you come back, you're in your 20s, you have crossed this chapter into a young adult, but I wasn't somebody who came back well. So in her mind, it was, who did they send back?
Mm-hmm.
And again, that aggression.
Yeah, how do you answer that in your mind, Stephanie? How would you just say, you mentioned a bunch of things. Like you said, your guard is up all the time. You're still kind of figuring out how to navigate the shame and the blame and the would have, could have, should haves. Was there anything else that you would say stuck out from the before me and the after me? Like any other, because remember when you're talking about high school and like your creative passion and fashion and like running and determination, like, you look and sound like you have that now, but maybe climbing out took another decade or two. Right? But let me just ask, like, do you think there's anything else? Because you've also mentioned that you're stronger and you ended up in a really good place, but your mom must have missed this like naive, innocent, fun 18-year-old Stephanie at the time, and perhaps that's why she said that. You were just a much more eyes wide open and serious about like circumspect, being on your guard all the time. I don't know. I'm just saying that because of what you've told me so far. That's like what it sounds like in my head, that the pre-Stephanie and the post. Would you add anything to that, or is that sounding close?
I would say the words that she used were, the military sent back the devil.
Oh gosh.
It was in that moment.
That's yikes. That's not good.
That I really had to come to terms with how I was evolving outside the military.
Okay.
It's almost like you're having this human identity crisis to some degree, because you're continuously hypervigilant. You're continuously just trying to avoid being in that circumstance again. But on the outside, for those looking at you, they're seeing something completely different. They're seeing somebody who's in a downward spiral. They're seeing somebody who was, at the time, very combative, very aggressive. And I remember certain instances where I was ashamed of my behavior because it was my new normal at the time. And until she said those words to me, it was eye-opening, because that wasn't something that she had ever said before. So it was that recognition of understanding that I needed help and I needed to change.
Right. So I guess I want to talk. Gosh, the time went like that. It's an hour already.
It does, right?
So let's just talk about, I guess, maybe 3 or 4 things that you've done over this like healing process, and how you started the Pink Berets, and then we'll get lastly to Tactical One. So can you think of 2 or 3 things that were really, really fabulously helpful in all the things you did for finding the new Stephanie?
I would definitely say it was identifying myself as a mother.
Okay.
I became a mom, and that was my driving force after. It's like, now I'm responsible for this little human being, my son, and I really need to change my outlook on everything around me, the way I'm, like I said before, evolving as an individual and identifying what it is that I want to do with my life. I can no longer lean into the fact that I had these things happen to me in the military and I've allowed them to define me. Now someone else is responsible for me. I'm responsible for someone else now. That person is now dependent on me.
And what age were you when you had your son?
I was 26.
Oh, right after you're out. Did you get married, or did you have a partner?
I had a partner at the time. And the unfortunate part of this is because of how I transitioned and for lack of understanding how to identify post-traumatic stress, depression, I went into a relationship where then I encountered intimate partner violence.
Oh, no.
So I was now in a domestic violence relationship.
Oh, no, Stephanie.
And so but you'd be surprised at how many of us enter that space when we haven't received the proper help.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a vicious cycle.
And
it's like your new normal.
Yeah, how did you meet him?
Through mutual friends.
Okay, he's not a Navy guy.
He was not in the military, no.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Oh gosh. Okay, so you had the son, and were you able to extricate yourself from that relationship?
I was. He was the reason I removed myself from the situation.
Good.
I remember thinking, I cannot allow my son to think this is okay or this is normal, or for him to think that this is how women should be treated.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want this generational curse to continue. And so I removed myself. It was really quick too. There was no turning back. There was no resolve. There was no, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. It was, I'm done and not giving him this life. Mm-hmm. I'm not.
Good.
And I stood strong in that stance. But what had taken place when that decision came along was this individual was getting ready to throw me down a flight of stairs. And my son, at the age of 5, runs up the stairs and gets in between us and hitting his dad and telling him to stop. Oh. And he stops, and that's when I was like, no, we're not doing this. And thank goodness, my son is a phenomenal human being.
Yay!
The way that he treats his partner is all I could hope for.
Oh, that's so happy, Stephanie. Look at this. That's good.
It is. It's
yeah, is he in his 20s now?
He is. He's in his 20s now. He was visiting earlier today.
Yay!
And the thing that stuck out to me that I thought, oh, my heart. Normally what we do are Sunday dinners. Mm-hmm. So we get together for dinner every Sunday. We call them Sunday family dinner. And we talk about our week, especially because he no longer lives at home. Mm-hmm. And, I have a daughter and another son. And so we all get together and I make a home-cooked meal for him. And he brings his girlfriend of 2 years, and actually a little longer than that now, and her family member as well. And we all have dinner. We talk about our week, or we play a game, or do something fun just to, allow ourselves to have that quality time.
Oh my God, I love that.
It's amazing. But earlier he's like, oh, she's under the weather. I'm going to go home and make her some soup. And I was like, good for you, sir.
That's fantastic. Well, then any other one thing you want to talk about besides your son that was really a catalyst for healing? Maybe it was starting the pink race.
Sure. So another catalyst for me that I think is really important, especially for women who are transitioning out of service, is your sisterhood. Mm-hmm. The camaraderie that you were taught to build in service can continue outside of service. And I would tell you, yes, family being the number one thing, but then also knowing who your sisterhood is, right? Your whether that's your group of friends that you served with or friends that you made outside of service, find who your people are. And when you find who your people are, lean into one another. You'll find that our stories, unfortunately, are more common. And you will find women who need to hear your story in order to release them from the hold that this story has on them. Mm-hmm. So I would say that was a catalyst in my healing as well. But the biggest catalyst to date is starting the organization. Starting the organization has been probably the biggest capability for healing from what I went through.
Yeah, and so
100%.
Maybe just in our last part, can you explain what the pink berets are and what you all do?
Absolutely. The pink berets is very personal to me, of course.
Of course, yeah.
And for me, deeply personal as a woman veteran, but as a founder, starting an organization from a place of need, knowing that we were still a very underserved population of women, knowing that there needed to be a healing space created specific to women that had been through this level of trauma, but also creating an environment where women could feel safe, but also have a hand in what their healing journey looks like. So we developed programs that were holistic, where there was no medicinal intervention. It was purely, let's get involved in the thing that allows you to be present, that allows you to move forward, that allows you to build yourself. We'll meet you where you're at and build yourself from there to evolve from the traumatic event that you were subjected to. And what we found early on were women were looking for something like the pink berets. When I started the pink berets, there wasn't anything in existence like us. Nothing that allowed women to come into a space without stipulations. We removed financial barriers. Come enter our culinary program. If you know how to cook and you just find peace cooking, then come and join us. If you're wanting to learn how to cook or learn new recipes, come and join us. If you want to participate in equine facilitated learning and be subjected to the power of horses, come and join us. If art, being creative, doing things that are tactile speaks to you, come and join us in our art therapy. If something more physical, releasing aggression, entering our boxing program speaks to you, come and join our boxing program. If wanting to do archery, outdoors, indoors, competitively, non-competitively, our archery program is for you. So we set up various options for various individuals so that if you were more someone who needed the peace and the calm and being in your element, culinary art, those things could speak to you. If you wanted to be outdoors, interacting with animals, equine could be for you. If you wanted to be more physical and you just wanted to get it out, boxing was for you.
I love that. Oh my gosh, so brilliant, Stephanie. So perfect. I think it's perfect because it has something for every single survivor's path. And what's cool
Exactly.
is you might
Exactly.
be in one stage and then be in another one in a year, right? Like it allows you to
Yes.
fluctuate and grow.
Yes.
I love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And from the building of the Pink Berets organization, we moved into advocacy. And advocacy to me, by far, has been the most impactful because you're helping the women who survived the trauma use their voice and turn that into purpose. And I can tell you that women that we have helped, their next thing is reclaiming that power. I'm ready to share my story. I want to share my story.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing that can then move into policy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That to me is giving the women and the men a path forward. Your storytelling can inevitably change somebody's life. It can impact a life. It can let somebody know they're not alone. Their voice matters. Their story can change someone else's life. It can change their legacy. And so advocacy has become a huge proponent of who we are and what we're known for. Never did we want to be known as an organization who focuses on military sexual trauma, but that's how we've evolved, and that's what we're known for because of the work that we do. It's not just about listening, it's about implementing, and it's about taking action. And so that's why we exist to be.
Brilliant. It's brilliant, Stephanie. I guess I want to close with if someone wants to learn more, is it based, do they need to live in Texas? Like, do they need to be in San Antonio? Do you have other places where they can participate?
So we do have chapters in different regions. Our main hub is in San Antonio, but we operate from different areas. And if there's an area where you feel like we're nowhere nearby, we can connect you virtually, or we can connect you with what I would call sister organizations. So other organizations that I've either mentored or I know have been building their organization for years to help the women that are needing support in the MST or PTSD arena. So I would say, your launch pad with us would be to visit our website, or you can follow us on social media. We post our events, or you can send us a private message and we can connect from there. There's a number of times where the women feel more comfortable reaching out privately and just wanting to learn if they can receive help.
I love it, Stephanie. I'm so sad and happy all at once. But mostly I'm happy because, wow, what a brilliant service. And so it's like, if I could have dreamed it up, I would say absolutely all the stuff you offer are the perfect way to meet so many different women's needs of the healing. And I like that it's all about doing and not just talking. I think the doing, like, to me, healing is an exercise. It's an
Yes.
activity. It's not like, I don't know if we can talk ourselves. Like, our growth is when we work out a muscle and it hurts. And then we know we did something good. But I feel like healing's the same thing. Like, we've got to rebuild those synapses and those pathways, and untrigger them and train them to be strong and beautiful in different ways.
Yes.
And you are exactly perfectly doing that. So I am so happy I finally got to speak with you today.
I am too. Thank you
We've been talking about it for a while, but today is a good day. And I love that it's a Sunday and you got to see your son, and I love every bit of it. So, my gosh, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Your grace and your kick-ass self. And, I think you're just magical. Like, there's no ranking of all of us. There's just like each and every one of us who does takes our thing that happened and does all this good stuff. It's like, it's terrible that we have to, but it's awesome that we are.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And I'm very grateful that you gave me the platform to talk about my story, but to also, hopefully inspire people to pursue a pathway that will allow them to, I guess,
Yeah, they'll go find you.
be inspired, right? Just be inspired to do something. Not all is lost. And for women or men that have been in this type of situation, to know that it can get better and people are standing by to help them navigate what that looks like. But at the end of the day, it's, our advocacy has to match our action. So this is one way to do it. So thank you so very much, Katie.
I think also for our listeners, just think about this. Like, both Stephanie and I were like 18, 19 when we went through this, right? And it was only a couple years apart. Like, we're almost the same age. and you're on this ship and I'm at this fancy college, old prestigious college. And look where we both went. Like, it didn't matter. And our circumstances were so different, right? But we both, as strong women, just have said, okay. And there were no rules, like, for either of us at the time. There were no rules back then. We just we're like, this is not going to happen anymore. And then we just, and I love that we independently and differently decided what would work. And everything is good. It's like, but I think it's just lovely and amazing to think of 18-year-old girls being wicked smart and strong.
Yes.
What I mean? Like, it's like, we can do good things, and and maybe we are doing more things because of what happened. But I know you would have been brilliant no matter what. So this is all good.
Thank you, Katie. No, it is truly an honor, because I admire all the work that you and your team have done, and you're on a global level. So to allow me to share this journey, I cannot be more thankful. I don't know there's enough words to convey how thankful I am, but to also bring up the fact that, yes, we were in our early years. And I mean, I could tell you that looking back, regardless of how difficult these challenges were, it wouldn't have brought us to where we are today for the level of impact that we are able to make. Right. And I don't think that I would trade that for anything. Me neither. And the way I say it, Steph, is someone's like, well, are you sad? Would you have wished you were never on the cover of Time magazine? I said, I could have wished that I was on the cover for something else, because I want to be that good at whatever I am doing. But at the same time, I would never give up that I took what happened and decided to use it this way, and keep choosing. Like, I think the gorgeous part too, Stephanie, is like, we're continuing to choose how we navigate and what's going to work. And, we're choosing it all by ourselves. Like, we don't have to take orders from anyone. You're the boss. It's great to be the boss. And it's great to have an amazing, wonderful team around you too, which you clearly have as well. So again, my very appreciative gratitude. And listeners, just take it and keep going. Just take down some more notes. And, and if anything, I always think, like, if there's anyone, I think what's cool about all my guests is, like, they're so incredible. They're not going to shut the door on anyone. Like, if you are inspired, go talk to one of them and say, oh, I listened to your interview and with Katie, and I really thought I love what you're doing. Like, I think we're all like that. So I hope you have a great rest of your week. And for our listeners, we are together thriving, surviving, doing wonderful, amazing things. You're always enough. And until we talk again next week, when another episode drops, be well. Take care.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Dear Katie. These conversations are never easy, but they're always necessary. And we're so grateful you chose to share this space with us. If something in today's episode stirred something within you, please give yourself what you need. Whether that's rest, support, or just a deep breath, you're not alone. To hear more stories, resources, and survivor-centered conversations, be sure to subscribe and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We want to hear from you, so please leave us a review and share your feedback. Your thoughts help us create episodes that resonate with listeners. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.